right, welcome. We will reconvene to open session. And General Counsel Lavra, would you please report out on closed session?
Yes, the board met in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 to confer with legal counsel with respect to the workers' compensation claim of Paul Greason versus Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District. By a vote of 7-0, the board gave authority to the district's third-party administrator to effectuate a settlement of that claim.
All right, thank you, Counsel. Moving on to action items. We have action item number 1, resolution amending Resolution 07-07, various sections affecting non-safety senior management, and unrepresented confidential employees. Welcome to the podium, Deputy Chief Mark Wells.
Good evening, Directors, Board Clerk Tilson, Chief. This evening, we're seeking to have adoption of the amendment to Resolution 07-07 in the sections listed. This is an ongoing action that we've been discussing. As you know, the fire chief is the representative to the board of directors for the negotiations for senior management. So tonight it would be our recommendation that we adopt the recommended changes in the staffing or in the resolution affecting senior management, both safety and non-safety resolutions. And just as a summation to these, I can go over them individually if you'd like to, or I can just give you a synopsis of what they are. We're looking to decrease sellback of vacation leave from 240 hours to 120 hours of vacation leave. Decreased administrative leave from 80 hours to 40 hours, which is vacation. Immediately on the signing of this agreement, 25% cut in sick leave. And also at the October 1st date of 2013, another 25%, so a total of 50% cut in sick leave. In January of 2014, senior management will meet any sick leave accrual of Local 522. Also, there's $100 per month contribution for all senior management to the OPEB, other public employees benefits for all senior managers, $100 a month. In addition, for safety senior management, there's a severance and or a bump back provision in the resolutions. So does anybody have any questions this evening that I could answer?
I'd just like to add to that, if I can, President Jones, that I think this sets the standard leading out for management, reductions in sick leave, reductions in administrative leave, which is important, and the fact that we're able to get these accomplished in that we eliminate all incentives for pay, and we accomplish something that's been really big in it's a first step, but it's about pre-funding the retiree medical, and that's really where we're headed here, is that unfunded liability is an issue of the day. It's an issue that's of real concern, and I think the management team needed to set up and step up and take those moves to set the mark for everybody in the district, and hopefully we will be able to expand this throughout the district by leading by example. And as I said, this is a start. But I want to commend the senior management for doing it, and I think it's going to benefit the district overall in the short term, the midterm, and the long term.
Director Pearson.
Yeah. Now, correct me. Is this also on top of what you've already taken from approximately a year and a half ago?
Yeah, correct. We're under the same July 1st of this year, the 12% concession. Correct.
All right.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chief, a couple of things. Page 19, item 14. You could go with me there. There's two.
Is this in the non-safety?
Yes, it would be.
Yeah. Two things. Because we used the term at will, I know in previous discussions there was a statement that we added in other language or other contracts that talked about the issue of an at-will status. You know, in lieu of all these capitulations or other negotiations, it doesn't change the status of an at-will employee. I don't see that similar language in this particular agreement, and so I just wonder if that's something we need to be concerned with. If not, moot. And then the second thing is, in the sentence that starts, it's an incredibly long one, but it starts with, in the event that a release, do you see where I'm at, Chief?
Yes.
Okay, it says, in the event that a release, and then it gets all the way down to the end, and it says, leading to the release from employment to board. I think it needs to read a little bit cleaner and say, to the board of directors. It's not using... So that would just be a grammatical improvement, but I'd be interested in knowing about this at-will status component, because we had a lengthy discussion about it in past, that anytime we identify at-will and there's contractual language, that there was a single sentence that needed to be added that didn't adjust their at-will status given all these other negotiations.
Director Gould, I would defer that to General Counsel Lavra.
Yes, Director Gould, that is added on the portion of the at-will paragraph that deals with safety members. And the reason it was added there is because for safety members, at least for the time being, there was going to, the senior management would still be at will. However, it gave the chief the discretion to, in the case of a termination, to either authorize 6 months of severance or to put in place any bump back rights that might exist without violating existing MOUs or collective bargaining agreements. And it was at the resolution that dealt with those safety members where that language had to be added, because we didn't want any argument that by giving severance pay or authorizing a bump back somehow would somehow be used by an employee to say, well, that really doesn't mean I'm at will then if there's all of these other options. At will basically means you can let someone go with or without any reason. So in order to clarify and reinforce and strengthen the at-will status, that additional language was added only to the safety employees because of those provisions.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate the clarification, and it does refresh my memory of the unique particulars relative to that sentence. I make a motion we adopt.
There's a motion and it's been seconded. Any further discussion? If not, please call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Director Monk.
Aye.
Gould.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Newcomer.
Aye.
Scheidegger.
Aye.
Pearson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Orzali and Clark absent. Motion passes.
Moving on to resolution, second item, resolution amending Resolution 08-07, various sections affecting safety, senior management, and unrepresented confidential employees. Again, Chief Wells.
Yes, actually, all these are very similar across the board. In fact, I can list the summation on these as well, just to be consistent. But these, again, are reducing the vacation sellback from 240 hours to 120. Actually, no, we're on safety, I'm sorry. 80 hours to 40 hours of administrative leave. Also, the sick leave cuts at 25% now, and another 25% in 2013, September 30th, or October 1st, excuse me, 2013. Also, another $100 of OPEB from all senior management. And I want to clarify, I might have mixed those because I kind of lumped them together earlier. The bump back provision is for safety, and the non-bump back, none of that in that other paragraph is for the non-safety. So safety has the bump back, non-safety.
And as we discussed, we will be working on that other issue and bringing it back to the board at a later date. But at this point, it doesn't have any effect on internal employees.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Director Monk.
Aye.
Gould.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Newcomer. Scheidegger.
Aye.
Pearson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Orzali and Clark absent. Motion passes.
Thank you. Item number 3 under action items, fiscal year 2011-2012 mid-year budget adjustments. Chief Financial Law.
Yeah, President Jones, while Chief Financial Officer Rhonda McFarland and her staff are getting up to present the overall item, I'd just like to make some preliminary comments in regards to the issue. Clearly, the district has experienced exceedingly aggressive decreases in property tax revenues. We've talked about this many, many times. At this point, we're around 22, 23 million on an annualized basis that our property taxes have decreased over the last couple years, and again, on an annualized basis. We talk about the ability to estimate what property tax is going to be and the difficulty. The county telling us that we should anticipate a 3.3% drop for this fiscal year that we're in. We actually went with a 4% drop. It ended up being just under 1% higher than that. We also, with the new finance staff, have really gotten in there and dug down into the issues. We hired HDL with your passing of that resolution. We feel that the data that we're going to have moving forward into the next fiscal year is going to be a lot more accurate than it has been in recent years. That being said, this year, you're going to hear about some great improvements in EMS revenues. It's going to be to the tune of, I believe, around 3.8 million more than what we had projected because of redeployments. And what I want the board to know and the public is we underestimated revenues coming in, and we're very conservative because a lot of governmental agencies, well, let's take the state of California, for example, estimate very rosy pictures about what revenue is going to be, and they're only off about $6 to $9 billion, however you want to do that. And this agency hasn't done that. We've gone very low on the revenues and on purpose to try to err on the side of being a conservative. We've had some tough goes. So property taxes ended up just the teeters is about $1 million less. Fuel prices went up by an additional 400,000 is what we're estimating, and need you just look at the news today, and in some places in the United States it was already up to, I believe, around $5.50 a gallon. Those are things that are very, very difficult to anticipate depending on world events, supply and demand, and so on and so forth. So we have really been challenged this year. You're going to see that the numbers that come up, we took some pretty aggressive actions to close the budget gap down to about a 900,000 and some change deficit at the end of the year. We're going to recommend with the changes that you will see that we brown out, which we did effective March 1st, the one company that you had already approved us to brown out. We are redeploying a staff captain from administration back to line and delaying air operations by about 1 month. That gets us down to about a $900,000 deficit at the end of the year. Here's some caveats to that. We're owed retroactive money from the federal government with AB 678 of around $6 million. We just don't know whether that's going to hit this fiscal year or next fiscal year. And so with issues like that, it is really felt on management side that it was more prudent to go ahead and set ourselves up to basically borrow the $1 million from reserve, knowing that AB 678 for sure will come in next year and some other revenues, and then pay it back in the following year, and not increase the amount of service cuts to the citizens out there, okay? Because we knew we had revenue coming in. It's just a matter of timing to get there. And then from that point, as we put the budget together for next year, it's going to be about sharpening the fiscal analysis, which, quite frankly, as you all know, has been wide and vast in regards to how you target in on what those numbers are. And by hiring HDL, new finance team on board, and experiencing this year as we've moved forward with the new administration, we feel next year is going to have a lot better, more solid data going in, and we will make very, very aggressive predictions on and accurate predictions on where we need to be, and if more service cuts need to happen, we'll recommend them at that time. But for the remainder of this year, we think this is a prudent recommendation to move forward. It was discussed at length on whether to force more cuts or not. I think we're prudent. I can tell you that around us, we have people that are 10 million in the hole on deficit spending and 4 million on the hole. We could be less than 950,000 depending on whether the AB 678 money comes in, or we have bets going on how much the EMS revenue will actually be above the additional 3.8 that it's been this year. So we think it's prudent. We'll let CFO McFarland take you through it. We think we've made solid, well thought out decisions and recommendations to you. And with that, I'll let her go ahead and do her presentation.
Thank you, Chief. Directors, I'm going to lead you through the numbers that are behind the story that the Chief just told you.
Freudian slip. Nice.
There's a reason that in the non-safety senior staff, that bump back right's not.
Wow.
No pressure.
All right.
I do actually have a pretty good sense of humor, but I wouldn't have done that on purpose. Okay, so we're going to start with our general fund. And this is just a recap, and we'll be going through the details of this. But we actually are increasing our revenue by $1.6 million. We've had significant pressure on our constant staffing overtime, which is resulting in $1.9 million labor cost increases. We have some offsets to that. That number is actually quite a bit larger, but with other offsets, we brought it down to $1.9 million. Then we summarized the remainder of the other expenditures, and in that area, we also need another $1.1 million, which the Chief mentioned several of those items, which we'll be going through. So it ends up with a net decrease of almost $1.5 million. You'll probably recall that before purchasing our present headquarters building, the general fund loaned our capital facilities fund $6 million. Our original budget called for $5.5 million of that being returned. We've had pretty stronger development fee revenue than we had expected, and also some lower costs as far as the debt service on the new building. So we were able to increase that transfer by $500,000 so that it could help alleviate some of the stress that was going on in the general fund, and that completes the repayment of that $6 million from the prior year. So this is just a snapshot of the general fund, the numbers in total. Looking at the revenue, this just compares what we had in final budget of about $135 million, and we're going back up to $136 million. Our medic fee revenue is being increased by $3.4 million, which you'll see on the next slide. But this is kind of showing where we were through January at $11.3 million, averaging per month $1.6 million. But as my finance committee can attest, we've actually been seeing our more recent months being stronger than our earlier months. So after doing various analysis and looking at this at several different ways, we also had our EMS director confer with Whitman, our billing company, and concluded that the number that we think is realistic for where we'll end up at the end of the year is $19.8 million. So as the Chief mentioned, we purposely were conservative when we budgeted the original budget for the EMS revenue. We've taken steps that have brought our fees in line with, more in line with our costs, that have redeployed which areas that we serve as opposed to our contractor AMR. And with all of that, it's bringing the revenue up to about $19.8 million. So our next slide, we didn't get this one summarized for you, but it has all of the revenue on it. And I'll use my pointer just to point out the number that we were just talking about is right here, our medic revenue. So the $16,349,000 going up to the $19,008,000 that we just talked about. In addition, up above at the top is all of our property tax money, and all of them kind of like this secured and non-secured kind of offset each other, and we had some where we were actually coming up over budget, but this is the problem right here. This is our delinquencies, and those are in arrears. Those actually relate to the taxes that were paid in the prior fiscal year by property owners in our district. And the ones that were, or I should say, the ones that were delinquent and not paid through an agreement with the county, they reimburse us for those amounts, and then they pursue the collection. So this is about $900,000 that we're off. So that's lowering our property tax revenue amount. In addition, another area where we actually are seeing improvements is, and this kind of ties into what you'll see in the capital facilities funds for development fees, we recognize our inspection permits and our plan review fees in our general fund, and we're increasing that by $200,000 based on where we are in the year with actuals versus what we had budgeted at the beginning of the year. So that's another area where we saw improvement. We did some minor adjustments down here, and then the other significant item, which I believe we mentioned in a prior meeting, has to do with our aid from other local governments right up here. And you can see that we're lowering that by $953,000, and then the line item right below, redevelopment agency pass-through, we're also lowering $160,000. The pass-through amounts come from the city of Rancho Cordova and the city of Citrus Heights through their redevelopment area, which we now know it will be changing in the future with the changes that the state has made. But with the agreements we have in place, we had budgeted more money than we actually received. That money has all come in for the year, and there's no further amounts due to us. So we are lowering that. I think again as a reflection in their case of lower than expected revenues on their tax for their tax collections as well. This one up here that we are hitting for about $953,000. That is the contracts that we have with other government agencies, and we have two large contracts. One is with McClellan for fire protection and EMS services on the McClellan area. And in addition, we have a contract with, we call it the ARF contract, which is the air program for the Coast Guard. And those amounts, the best I can say is why we need that large decrease is just the numbers when the analysis was done for the final budget were overstated. That's the best way I can put that.
Summary where you indicate that McClellan that part of that. I was just wondering why McClellan was being lowered by 900.
It's a very simple explanation. It was a mistake. And the previous year,
Okay.
the finance people carried it over that number, and there was a late payment in there. So it falsely set what that number was, and instead of going back and looking at the previous contract to see what that current contract said, they transposed a number and moved it across, and that shouldn't have happened. That's not Ms. McFarland or the staff that's working today, but that was a mistake that was made, and it's been corrected, and it won't happen again.
Indeed, when we put together the mid-year, we did go back and look at what was supporting these numbers and made sure that we could rely on the numbers that were in the budget, and that was the one that popped out as not being in line with the agreements that we had in place. Are there any questions on the general fund revenue? If not, I'm going to go on to the expenditures. Right. I'm sorry, the next slide actually talks about our transfers, and I mentioned when I talked about the summary that we did increase it by $500,000, and this is just showing what the original final budget had for transfers and what the mid-year has for transfers. And it's, the large amount is the repayment of the money from the Capital Facilities Fund, and then there's a smaller amount that offsets that, where we're sending $38,000 to the to the grant fund for a match, and that was part of the original final budget, and there's been no change to that. So the only change was that increase for the full repayment of the prior year's borrowing.
I should have asked this during the Finance Committee, but quickly, Ms. McFarland, under the general discussion in your report, the fiscal year-end general fund reserves estimated to be about 14.9. Does that include the 5,962?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so on to the expenditures. We had the final budget at just about 135 million, and then we are increasing it to about 138 million. And we'll go through the different items that are being affected. Starting with the labor costs, about a $2 million increase is being required for labor costs. And we went ahead and detailed out what are some of the large amounts that are happening. And one of the things that we've seen during the first 7 months of the year is a lot of retirements happening. When the final budget was put together, they did anticipate a certain number of retirements happening, and the number is coming in about at least 10 additional retirements over and above what we had anticipated. That does a couple of different things. The base wages, where you see a decrease, as we bring in newer people at a lesser wage, we're benefited there. If there's a time period where a position is not filled. So we were able to lower our base wages by almost $1.3 million. But then we also have leave accruals that we pay out to them, which we do budget. It's definitely something that is an art, not a science, because we really, at the beginning of the year, do not know which individuals will choose to retire. We do not, and depending on who that is, they will have various balances that we owe them under their labor agreements. So in looking at where we were through the first 7 months of the year, we felt that needed to be adjusted up about $241,000. And then the other number where you can see is really huge is this constant staffing number. So when you're saving up here, you're ending up having to keep your stations fully staffed 24 hours a day, and then you're having to pay overtime rate for that when you don't have all the positions filled. And that's why there's been such a push, not only because we have requirements under our SAFER grant, but just to get as fully staffed as we can to try to keep that number down. And that is just the increase that we need to that. Then we had a couple other changes. This one actually helped us. The medical costs, the change in our premium rates, we don't know that before we put the budget together. And in being conservative, a fairly large percentage increase was put in there. Again, to be conservative, and it came in much lower than what we had anticipated. So that actually reduces our benefit cost. And then we're seeing a little bit more in unemployment, so we're bumping that up just $33,000. Medicare, just in doing the calculations, we could lower that a little bit. And then we have about $500,000 that says PERS, where the PERS amount, that has to do with some kind of I would say, again, an understatement that was made in the final budget. It was a little bit confusing between the years on how many payments we were going to pay. As you recall, the final budget is for 11 months, but then we had a prior year. So in doing all of that, a piece of it was missed putting into the budget. And so that's a correction of the original estimate of what that should be. So altogether, when you add those all up, you get your $1,953,000. So this was a lot of time and attention went to this. I want to thank my staff that worked on it, and especially Ken Campo that helped quite a bit with this, because We have a lot of people, we have complicated ways that we pay folks, and there was a lot to it. And this is our best estimate on what the increase needs to be in this mid-year adjustment.
I'd like to add a few comments on that, is that the finance team that is here today presenting this to you is not the finance team that put the preliminary budget together that you have in front of you. So as we work through this and we look at it, they uncovered what I would refer to as bad or inappropriate estimates. So when you look at the constant staffing number, that wasn't because there was an inordinate necessarily amount of overtime. I think it was because there was less than right numbers used in the first place. In other words, we should have had this data from the very, very beginning and known what we were dealing with. So we've zeroed in on that constant staffing number. That's always been an issue. That's a challenge. You're never going to get it absolutely perfect. But working with labor, working with management, we're going to drill into that number now that we've kind of forensically had the finance team that's here today dissect this and improve upon that. And the other issue that really led to that is that we did have a heck of a lot more retirements than we were anticipating. 10 strikes me as actually a little lower. The numbers I saw were about twice that more than what the original estimate was in there. So, you know, when you look at that, and we're having a heck of a time hiring and getting enough people on board. In fact, we're getting ready in April to try to start another academy out. And that affects your overtime number. That's part of driving that down. And then last but not least, you know, as we talk about leave, when you have to replace people, it's not about, and I want to make this clear to the public out there, this is not dialing for dollars. These are mandatory positions. You have to have the station staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, so that when the citizens dial 911, as you well know, directors, they get somebody there. We are not in the business where at 5 o'clock we can just shut down in the middle of a fire or a medical emergency and go home. And I think that that's a misnomer out there. So it's the only way we really can affect that is in leave. That's part of the reason that you saw management lead with reducing the amount of sick leave eventually in half, cutting the vacation administrative leave back, the amounts you can accrue. We are looking at all those types of items to bring that overtime budget further down in the coming fiscal year. So I think that's the nuts and bolts of why we're where we're at. The PERS number is the same thing. You have to have good data going in to get good data coming out the other end, and I can assure you as we move towards this next fiscal year that's going to be the case.
Go ahead. Oh, some more, sure.
Just a question again on, and I think the chief touched on it with the constant staffing, and maybe you can answer the question, because we do get some questions from the citizens about the overtime. In reality, though, with the overtime, when the people are forced to work the overtime, not allowed to go home, is it in the long run cheaper for the department to pay that person overtime than to hire extra bodies to have around? Is a full-time employee more expensive than an overtime?
Yes, a full-time employee is more expensive than an overtime employee once you have a full burdened rate out with benefits and everything. That would accurately be the case. And so in the short term, that's why we call it constant staffing. And we're trying to identify at what point is that constant staffing number a work. Because the other downside of that is we had weekends during the summer where we would mandatory up to 51, 52 personnel. When I mean mandatory, that means you've worked your 48 straight and you're not going home for 72 to 96 hours, not because you just decided you wanted to be here, because you have no choice. That's what we have to do. And so there's a point there where you've got to balance that issue of tired employees and efficiency and safety versus the issue of time and a half and trying to save money. The real crux to get that down is we've cut in a lot of areas. Now it's about reducing the amount of leave, the amount of people that are off. That will drive that number down because that's less positions per day that you have to replace.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that because you do hear that complaint, and I think it's important to point out that these people are being forced to stay and they're actually saving the district money when they do that. Thank you.
So this schedule basically shows what we had for labor cost in the final budget, what our total adjustments are that we just went over, and then we end up with our total labor cost mid-year adjusted budget of $121 million. So see the different pieces that we talked about. So I went ahead and grouped all the rest of the expenditures that were non-labor on this sheet and tried to call out the items that were our large adjustments that were needed, and then we put everything else in other. And so the total adjustment needed is $1.1 million for other expenditures in the general fund. And the chief touched on pretty much most of these. We found that our power costs were coming in higher than expected. We do have our new Armstrong building, and what we did in this budget is the power costs that are in the general fund pertain to the floor. I should probably explain to people that might be listening, is in our building we have 2 stories. The first story is occupied by a tenant, and the second story is the headquarters for Sac Metro. And so in the general fund, we've only included the utility costs for Sac Metro. And the utility costs that pertain to our tenant, you will see in the new fund that you established, our lease revenue fund. So you'll be seeing that in, later on in the presentation. So this adjustment for power cost is strictly for our facilities. And our power costs, include not just that building, but also our stations as well. We also are being hit with higher fuel costs for all of the vehicles that are used to serve the public. Just like when they go to the gas station and they're having sticker shock, we're having that as well here at our district. And so based on where we are to date on our budget and what fuel costs we expect through the end of the fiscal year, we're recommending a $409,000 increase, so that will bring our total fuel costs from about $1 million to about $1.5 million. In addition, we are increasing the budget for safety clothing, and that has to do with many of our recruits that we've been bringing in, uniforming them. Wellness, we have a program for wellness for our employees. There is some discretion in that expense, and so as we were seeing the pressure from the other costs, we went ahead and lowered that by $108,000. We also have been very efficient with our legal work. We talked about that at our last meeting when we renewed the legal contract. We were able to lower our budget from $200,000 to $140,000. And I can tell you, of all the government agencies that I've worked for, this is the lowest legal budget I've ever seen for a public agency. And I've worked for ones that were much smaller than Sac Metro. So I think that says well for...
He's right there.
And he didn't bribe me to say any of this stuff. But I'm just trying to share with you my insights into these numbers. And that's one that I think you can feel very good about. If you went around and looked in the budgets of other agencies, you will see that is quite lean.
Do we look at that as legal concessions?
Yes, we could. But I like to think that we're working smart. We're getting the advice on the front end, so we stay out of trouble on the back end where it gets expensive. And then on EMS, we have a lot of different costs that go along with the EMS program, and I think we went ahead and just kind of added them all together to show you the total increase for that area is $173,000. And the largest part of that are fees to Whitman. As we have been increasing our dollars, then our costs to them go up as well. And then the next line item I show on there is our property tax administration fee. That is a state mandated fee. We actually have the county as our treasurer, but every single agency that has property taxes collected on their behalf, whether or not they have the county as their treasurer or not, are charged this fee. And we, at the beginning of the year, I'm sure we conferred with the county and put in the number that we thought we were going to be charged, and it actually came in higher. And so we have already paid that amount. In fact, they actually just deduct it from our property taxes. And so that is a hard number, and so we did need to make that adjustment for the actual cost that came in. In addition, we were levied an assessment by the state of California for workers' compensation. It's a self-insurance assessment. In order to keep our costs as low as possible, we've chosen to be self-insured. But apparently other folks that have done it have not been around to make the payments to people that were injured on the job. So they go out and they place more or less kind of a tax on everybody else that's self-insured to contribute into a fund that will make sure that the employees that were injured at employers that are no longer around have those payments for when they're unable to work. So that's our contribution towards that. And from what I understand, that is an annual fee that comes out. I imagine this is probably a lot larger than maybe it's been in the past, but we'll make sure as we budget in the future that we take that into consideration. Nothing was budgeted for that at all in the budget. And then in the rest of the areas, we had small amounts here and there. I'll give you an example of one of the larger items that's not even broken out, had to do with some mold that we found at one of our stations that we're having to remedy, so our maintenance costs are going up. I do know we've had a number of plumbing issues, so I think many of the items that are in that smaller number have to do with maintenance. And we have some that are going down. When we saw that we were bringing some items in under budget, we would lower them. And so overall, this is the amount that we came up as our recommendation for the mid-year.
Questions, comments about particular items or anything in general? I have one quick one. Back on the property tax administration, you're saying it's a state mandated formula?
What it is the state allows the county to pass through all their property tax administration costs because they're collecting on behalf of all these various agencies. They are allowed to charge us, and they come up with their costs. They take into consideration, I believe, all of the agencies fund the assessor's office as well as the tax collector costs. And yeah, and quite honestly, it was a political thing. At some point, the state came in, took money away from the county, and they said, okay, but we'll make you whole by letting you charge all the other agencies for the service. And they do provide the service to us. I'm not arguing that. But it's not one that we have any flexibility on what we pay.
Offside. Does each individual county decide their particular formula? They
No,
come up with the cost for the assessors?
It's a statute. It's statutory as to how they charge, but I'm sure each county has different costs. They vary. I'm sure depending on how many people they staff in their office, what kind of systems they have, automation or less automation, that kind of thing.
In fairness, this isn't the first time I've asked a CFO about this particular property tax administration, so I'll continue the conversation offline. Thank you.
Yeah, and I may know more about it than some, because I remember when we didn't used to have to pay it, and then when it came into play, and so, yeah, I've been doing this government work for a couple of decades now, so I remember when it happened.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
It's a minor issue, but it's just more for appearance than anything else. I just have a clarification. On the board of directors, it says that we're adjusting $1,100. I mean, we haven't taken a raise or done anything. Where's the need for the adjustment on that?
I think what we have in there is, and our clerk can chime in if she wants, but I believe that is through the board, you do some kind of awards for people that retire, and because we've had so many retirements that we talked about in the labor area, we needed to increase your budget a little bit so that you'd have the funds to be consistent for all of our retirees to receive the same that we've done in the past. It's fairly nominal, but as we have more and more, there was a slight need for an increase there.
Okay, good. I just wanted to, somebody was to ask, I wanted to be able to explain that because I know we haven't voted a raise or anything for any of us, so thank you.
Tell them that we probably more than save it when we bring in the new recruit and have lower wages, so.
Right.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, you're off the hook, Director Pearson.
One other point where you could have some significant savings too, is 6 figures, 100,000 or so, will be dependent on the fire chief's fund in regards to some of the studies that we've been doing and the work we've been doing in regards to looking at the regional issues and stuff like that as far as declining revenue and how we potentially could bring more revenue in. And so we've got that set at a decent amount, and at the end of this fiscal year, I suspect that there could be 100,000 or so that isn't used out of that, and some other funds. So, you know, what you see is our best guess is where we're sitting at, but I think that hopefully we'll be able to drive that cost down towards the end as well.
Want to go ahead and go through the 212DGL and highlight?
Yeah. Before we jump there, I just wanted to emphasize with this slide that in order to balance our budget, we are using reserve funds. When we did our final budget, we had anticipated that we would actually slightly come into the black. We now are dipping into our reserves for $963,000. And as the chief mentioned, that we are working very diligently on our behalf and on behalf of all the other fire districts in the state in getting the AB 678 in place so that we will recover more costs from our Medi-Cal transport. So that retroactive money may come in this year. It's more likely that it'll come in next year, and that's why we did not include that here, but that would then put us back into the black, and quite a bit so. This is our capital facilities fund, and we had a number of things going on here. We originally in the final budget included all of our tenant properties that we have in there. So that first floor of our building that's leased was included in this fund, along with some operating costs. And the board at a prior meeting, we created a separate fund. We want to leave this fund so that it really just accounts for capital costs and our development fees that they're allowed to be spent on. And so we've moved that into a separate fund, which you'll see later. So some of these adjustments going out are just moving things to those other funds. For example, in the revenue, that minus $144,000 is the rental income going into the L fund. We also are moving out the utilities, and we're moving out the debt service on the building that pertains to the first floor. So that's that big $1.3 million. And then we had an increase for a small capital asset item that we had not anticipated with replacement of a roof on one of our stations. So that's what the increase to capital assets are. We've already talked about the capital facilities fund fully repaying the general fund. So you can see that $500,000 increase so that it goes to the full $6 million. We just had some minor interest come in on a couple of funds that we closed. So we were able to add that to the transfer coming into this fund. And then I kind of want to emphasize this bottom line here, this number right here, this $497,000. In order to have our L fund in balance, we're doing an interfund borrowing, and we anticipate next year to be able to repay that once we have 12 months of rental income coming in and have some of the other buildings that we vacated occupied, generating more rental income. But for the time being, there's a loan going on between these two funds. Is there any questions? Okay, I'm just going to add one more thing that I forgot to mention. Up here where we have this 1.3 million that is being reduced down, there was actually more things going on than just the transfer to the L fund. We also, in the original budget, had two payments budgeted rather than one payment. When we put the final budget together, they had not changed the number that they had in the original budget, and I think at that time or the preliminary budget, at that time they anticipated the bonds going out earlier in the year. They went out in December, so we basically are paying 6 months, and in future years, it will be the larger amount. Okay, so this is the leased property fund we've been talking about. So we have some small adjustment up here for revenue where we're anticipating some small adjustments to rental income. Mr. Davis has been working with the county on leasing out one of our fire stations, or I'm sorry, I think it's OES? BLM. Okay. Anyway, we have rental income coming in from BLM on one of our fire stations that we anticipate that's going to start towards the end of the year, so it's just a small amount. And we had to increase our utilities in this fund, and so that's at $116,000. And we don't, we really didn't know what to expect with the Armstrong building for the downstairs. We do have some provisions in our lease that allows us to recoup some of that cost, but we have just started more or less negotiating how we're going to measure that with our tenant. And so we don't anticipate that reimbursement to happen in the current fiscal year, but in the subsequent fiscal year, we may very well recoup some of that. And that's pretty much it for this fund. And then
I want to add a couple things. Not only we've got Station 33 that's going to be leased out to Bureau of Land Management. Is that correct, Mr. Davis? Right. And that's going to be for 2 BLM hand crews that are going to be stationed out of there for Bureau of Land Management. The Regional Fire JPA is in the process of actually leasing a Gold Canal for EMT and paramedic classes. We're getting ready to expand into that whole issue until we have the portable classrooms put in out at Zinfandel. So we do have lease revenue, I believe, coming in on that to the tune of a couple $1,000s a month. And as they expand the use of that lease will go up. And we are under discussions in regards to Hurley with some tenants, which I can't go into at the moment, in regards to leasing that facility. So we have moved very, very judiciously and very, very quickly to try to get all of our vacant buildings leased out. And we have another fire station, I believe, that the county wants as a laydown yard and to store some equipment, which 102? Station 102, which we're in the process of finalizing that lease out as well. So you're going to see some changes in this fund and revenue coming in, and anything that we have, we're trying to get it under contract. I think that they were talking about some K-rails perhaps being put in behind and using the interior of the apparatus floor to store some equipment. So it didn't sound like it was going to be overly onerous. Is that correct?
That's correct. And there's also...
Go ahead.
I'm going to move on to the grant fund, and you'll see a number of adjustments here. We, in a prior board meeting, had set up a separate fund for the simulator. So basically what you see here is all of those amounts being transferred out of the grant fund in order to put it in its own separate fund so we can track the interest and so forth, since we are asking for advance payments on that particular grant. We also have been awarded a couple other grants that don't appear on here. They have not even come to the board for their approval. So this is just the grants that the board has approved and were awarded up to the January 31st time that we cut off the mid-year budget numbers at. This is the simulator grant fund, and we had, when we set this fund up, we had put the simulator, the entire amount of the grant there, and we actually are lowering that in anticipation that the amounts that we're decreasing will be spent after June 30th, so in the next fiscal year. This is the grant schedule that we've been reviewing with our finance committee each month. And so it's a real good snapshot of, what are different grants that we have out there, how successful the grant program has been for the Metro District. And, the community that we serve has benefited to the tune of $13 million. So that's just the detail of what goes behind the numbers that you just saw in the grant fund. Includes both the simulator and the other grants.
And I would point out that we received 2 grants in the last 48 hours, one for around $1 million, the other for about $1,750,000. The latter one I mentioned is for new defibrillators, which our defibrillators are 12 or 13 years old and had to be replaced. We'd have had to come out of our general fund for that. There will be a matching amount of around 800 grand. And also they gave us 300,000 for our health and wellness program as well. And then we also just received a regional grant that we put in for thermal imaging cameras, which is $1 million that's coming in. So, we're in a $15–16 million range, and I can't say this enough because when I first got here, I heard a lot of criticism coming from the floor. But in the 2 years that I've been here, Mr. Davis has secured around $15–16 million in federal grants coming into the district. And as I said earlier to the Finance Committee, per capita, that's a pretty stunning number.
Questions or comments on our mid-year budget adjustments? Cool.
I just want to thank the finance team for doing these. I know it's an incredibly difficult time, and to be able to go through, and I know the tremendous amount of work that's been done going through the preliminary budget work and then getting to this point and having to make these adjustments. So my hat's off to you, and I look forward to making motions on these resolutions this evening. Thank you, Madam Chair.
If not, we will move for passage of the various resolutions. Chair will entertain a motion for 3A, resolution adopting mid-year budget for the General Operating Fund 212A.
So move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Director Monk.
Aye.
Gould.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Newcomer.
Aye.
Scheidegger.
Aye.
Pearson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Worzali, Clark absent. Motion passes.
Now moving to item 3B, resolution adopting the mid-year budget for the Capital Facilities Fund 212D. Entertain a motion. First and seconded, please call the roll.
Director Monk.
Aye.
Gould.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Newcomer.
Aye.
Scheidegger.
Aye.
Pearson.
Aye.
Jones. Worzali and Clark absent. Motion passes.
Item 3C, resolution adopting the mid-year budget for the Grants Fund 212G. Entertain motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Directors Monk.
Aye.
Gould.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Newcomer.
Aye.
Scheidegger.
Aye.
Pearson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Worzali and Clark absent. Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving to 3D, resolution adopting mid-year budget for the Leased Properties Fund 212L.
I move, Madam Chair.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Director Monk.
Aye.
Gould.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Newcomer.
Aye.
Scheidegger.
Aye.
Pearson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Worzali and Clark absent. Motion passes.
All right, thank you. Finally, we have 3E, resolution adopting the mid-year budget for the Simulator Grant Fund 212S.
So move.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Director Monk.
Aye.
Gould.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Newcomer.
Aye.
Scheidegger.
Aye.
Pearson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Worzali and Clark absent. Motion passes.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on to, we have one presentation item listed here, consideration of online agendas. It was Director Rosali who had first brought this to my attention. And since he is absent here, I would request that we continue this to our next meeting when Director Rosali is here, but also encourage all of us to think about the implementation of something of this nature, the pros and cons and expenses that might be involved or reduced. So please bring those thoughts with us next time, and we hope that Director Rosali will be with us. Are there any issues that anyone wants to bring up under online agendas, or can we save it till our next meeting? All right, thank you. Okay, moving on, President's report. We have not had an executive committee meeting, so I have no full report tonight. Moving on to Chief's report.
President Jones, Board of Directors, First off, I'd like to thank Congressman Doris Matsui. I received a phone call from her yesterday in the hard work that she did in obtaining the regional grant for the thermal imaging cameras in the tune of $1 million. She was calling specifically on that grant, and I was at lunch with some developers out at McClellan, so it was hard to talk. And besides that, they wanted to jump in and get some stuff they probably wanted from her. They were teasing me, but
Good old Larry Kelly.
yeah, exactly. And but at the end of the day, she also got us that cardiac monitors that I talked about in the health and wellness grant, which totals, I believe, about 2.5 million, of which we get 1,750,000, and we have to match the balance. So to Congresswoman Matsui, we're just eternally thankful. She helped us with our SAFER grant to put the 2 new trucks in, which has seriously helped us out in these tough economic times. And she every day doesn't cease to amaze with her support of working people and the fire service and what we provide to the citizens out there and for Metro Fire and the people we protect. Also, Channel 13, I'd like to thank Scott Cockrum. Channel 13 ran a story, if you saw it, on the Lucas device on February 29th. I would like to thank Rick Maloney and Station 61 C Shift. It was a phenomenal presentation on the Lucas device about how the company had donated the money, and they actually showed the machine working on a mannequin, and just received a lot of positives back on that. And I won't shamelessly plug that they're very expensive pieces of equipment, and you know, we're looking for sponsors out there to help us out in these tough economic times. We have put in for a grant for those. However, I don't know that we're gonna go 3 for 3. We might only be 2 for 3 this year, but we'll remain to see what happens. Attended on the 24th of February, attended the JPA Governing Council meeting in regards to the Regional Training Center. I can tell you that things are moving out there. We're in a process of going out to bid for fencing. Captain Mo Johnson advised me yesterday that he has received, I believe, from the Cordova School District, would that be correct? 4 portable classrooms that they're going to donate to us that are in great shape. I called the director of fire for Cal Eman to make sure we could pay $300 each to carpet them, and he assured me he probably would agree with that. But they're fairly in great shape. Portable classrooms, we have to pay to get them moved, so we're moving that process. The fence is out to bid, and the working groups are moving forward. So you're going to see the regional training facility really starting to take shape over the next few months, and we're really pushing to be open for business somewhere around July 1. Also, the 13th Annual Community Volunteer Awards, Metro CERT, received from the Cordova Community Council. Staff attended that. I wasn't able to for Distinguished Community Service Organization Award, and our CERT team got one. Our CERT people out there that provide assistance, whether it's Operation River Safe, whether it has to do with really super windy and stormy days when we have a lot of down power lines and they go and stand by so we can release emergency crews to handle other incidents. You know, you got to take your hat off. They don't get paid. They donate their time. And, you know, that's one of those issues that grant money is starting to run out. I have tasked those 2 captains to look at a business plan. We're going to have to become more self-sufficient in that to continue the running of that program. And I'm expecting sometime in the next several months that we will be getting more on that. We had our senior command staff management workshop last Tuesday and Wednesday, where the management team got together with a facilitator and went over what we accomplished in the last 9 to 10 months and what our recommendations would be for the board of directors planning session that's going to come up with management and labor. It was 2 days. It was pretty intense. We first went and listed 38 items that were accomplished in the last 9 or 10 months, and they were definitely huge issues. I'm not going to belabor them today. You'll be seeing those at the planning session. Certainly, we're not going to be able to keep up that pace. We identified about 8 focused areas that we want to bring to the board of directors that we think we really need to, that are 8 big ticket items, concentrate on, and will be recommendations for the next 12 months with your guys' review and approval of that. It was very successful. I did not attend the Communications Center board meeting, but I understand things are going well. Chief Aaron can report on that. Did attend the Sac Metro Chamber State Legislative Summit luncheon, and also our people were at the Capitol with the Metro Chamber of Commerce. On the 3rd, I attended the Firefighters Burn Institute 2012 crab feed. It was so packed that Director Jones, or President Jones, came over and said hello to me. And I said, well, I'll get back to you. And the next thing I know, you couldn't find anybody in there. It was a great event, well attended. Director Kelly was there. And it was just really, really a great fundraising event. WebEx meetings, video conferencing. We had 2 meetings already just over the last couple days. I'll be having another one tomorrow morning with the personnel on the shift that I had not hit yet, and then one for day staff next week. League of Cities, monthly conference call with the league chiefs. I can tell you what is about to come down the pike that's of interest probably to you is the issue of illegal fireworks in California. The fireworks industry is proposing that the fireworks, safe and sane fireworks, be legalized between Christmas and New Year's. And I have to tell you, instead of consistently fighting the fireworks industry and hurting the charitable organizations that derive revenue from that, at least for the northern part of the state and for our region here, with very rare exceptions, having fireworks that are safe and sane sold between Christmas and New Year's, I'm not going to lose any sleep over. And that was a general consensus, surprisingly, even from the chiefs in the southern part of the state, which is a big change. And what we really, so that bill is in the Assembly and the Senate. So I think there's a pretty good likelihood that you will see that happen. Quite frankly, we have no data that shows that there's injuries, and the fireworks industry knows this with safe and sane fireworks. And we really don't have a lot of data showing safe and sane fireworks are causing a bunch of fires either. What's causing the injuries and the fires is illegal fireworks that are coming out of the state of Wyoming and Nevada, and that's really where the concentration efforts need to be. So I think you're going to see for the first time some real stakeholder movement towards the direction. It's a compromise on that. The big issues remaining really are the transportation of those in quantities, and of course disposal of those fireworks apparently is an environmental issue. We haul them out of state and burn them. It used to be way back in the horse-drawn days, you just stored them in a closet at a fire station, and they were disposed of rather rapidly, but we don't allow that anymore. So at the end of the day, we need to make sure the regulatory committees in California don't get overboard. One of them was they're informing us that we can't even legally take them from somebody because we're not qualified to transport them back to the station and store them. I found that highly laughable and expressed that, as did the other chiefs. So we need to bring common sense and regulatory process back. But I think you're going to be seeing that in the upcoming years. And the other positive of this really, I think, is you'll have people that are responsible out there that'll tell them, listen, you can use them on Christmas and New Year's. They feel safe, but not on 4th of July. So maybe it alleviates a little bit of the pressure on the summer months. In regards to also the League of Cities, I will be on a panel to present in San Diego with LA City on emergency medical service delivery to the city managers and the elected officials to show the need, why we do EMS, why we are in transport, why we have emergency services on our engine companies, why we can do it better, we can be there quicker. And I'm excited to find out that they're going to put some people on there with some opposing views, because I always like that. So both sides will be well represented, but really we felt it was important to get our view out there about why we do emergency service delivery in California. There's a lot of elected officials and some communities that really believe we should just get out of that. And as we all know in our community, it's a huge service delivery. Fire stations have to be there 24/7. They're community-based. We did community-based fire servicing before the police ever thought about it. And the bottom line is, when you dial 911, we're there the first, and we have highly trained professionals that can deliver that emergency care. Upcoming events, the management staff of operations, excluding human Chief Aaron, myself, and Chief Wells will be back here. We'll be going to Leadership Summit for 3 days, which has to do with operations issues throughout the state of California. Also, a reminder, we have an OPEB workshop for staff at the Armstrong Building on the 15th of March from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. I believe that's a joint presentation. Also on the 20th, we will have fiscal year 2013 budget planning meeting that's coming up. And on the 21st, a Metro revenue meeting. I will just say in concluding those three topics, preliminary numbers from HDL are not promising about property tax drops for next year. We're looking in the neighborhood of around a 6% further drop. That is a huge, huge drop. The assessor here is extremely aggressive. I said that in a press release, and that's wonderful, and people are getting things dropped, but the bottom line is that probably means somewhere around $5 or $6 million further reduction in revenue just from property taxes for us. We are going to be coming in budget planning sessions with more revenue ideas. You'll be getting a presentation on an EMS issue at the next meeting, but we are working very diligently on trying to balance that out and to make up for those. But it's going to be an exceedingly challenging year. And, you know, the bottom, I can honestly say we haven't hit it yet, at least in property tax revenue. And, you know, we're going to remain diligent and move forward from there. As somebody told me, they said, well, a lot of the cities are told it's going to be X and they only use 80% of that number. You know, that's gimmick budgeting to me. If we hired somebody professionally, told us it's X, I'm going to be coming to you probably with X. As you saw when we were told to put Y in, we even increased that from 3.3% this year to 4%. Erring on the side of the extreme is important in these fiscal times because there's no revenue on an ongoing basis to make up any cushion. The 23rd of this month is the Sac Metro Firemen's Association, Firefighters Association Retirement Dinner. It's at Croatian Culture Center, 6 p.m. That's for all our retirees, and I believe there's like 40 of them. So it's going to be a very, very a big dinner. Look forward to seeing everybody there. We have no new hires to report. They're in backgrounds right now. I believe we have 22 or 23 in the process. 27. And that doesn't even make up for the amount of retirements in the process, and that will be forthcoming. Effective March 7th, Captain Roger Ferenc, 28 years of service, retired. We wish him the absolute best. And with that, I'd just like to say thank you very much for my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for the fire chief? Chief Holbrook, welcome to the podium.
President Jones and Board of Directors, thank you. I actually have a slide for you tonight. Every time that operations comes up, we provide some statistics for you relative to the percentage of transports from relative to Metro versus AMR. And that's not because we want to compete with AMR. It's because if Metro Fire acts a little bit more occasionally like a private enterprise, we can find efficiencies. Don't necessarily pay attention to every data point, but start to look at the trend. For years, and this goes from 2010 all the way up into 2012, for years, Metro Fire trended below the private enterprise. And then you'll notice something that happens in 2011. All of a sudden, there's a radical trend upward. And from that point on, Metro Fire actually gained efficiencies in all of its medic units relative to the percentage of transport. Now, Chief Hinkie is able to report to you tonight at mid-year that EMS revenues are up. That is a direct correlation to the fact that your percentage of transports are higher. That is a direct correlation to the hard work for the men and women that work for this agency day in and day out make that happen. So while I give you stats every time that I'm up here, I felt it was important to give you a little context of why we give you the stats. This is a true testament to the hard work of the folks out there. So with that, thank you, Art. Since we last met 14 days ago, Metro Fire did roll out on 1,832 EMS transports, of which 75% were transported. Our partner, AMR, rolled out in 577 dispatches, pardon me, and transported 74% of the time. Again, we're in lockstep with that private enterprise. Since the last time we met, it's been 14 days, and we have had 19 working structure fires. One of those was actually ruled to be arson, and we have put out a call for assistance in terms of any information available relative to that incident. And finally, I want to wrap up with a thank you. And the thank you actually is to two individuals who today served on a panel in celebration of Women's History Month. Today, they served on a panel at Folsom Lake College for women in non-traditional roles in the workplace. And actually, one of them is with us today, Captain Barbie Law, served on the panel with Inspector Wendy Roof. It's this kind of outreach and this kind of professionalism that the operations group puts out there every day in representation of you and the agency. And I actually would like to take a moment and thank them for that. So thank you very much. And that concludes my report for tonight. I will certainly answer any questions.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you. Moving on to General Counsel's report.
Yes, I just have a short statement. I'd like to thank Ms. McFarland for the comments that she made with respect to the adjustment of legal fees. But I think the board should also know that the senior management that I deal with on a daily basis and their staff, when it comes time to calling the attorney and getting the advice or having the documents prepared or reviewed or whatever it is, that they and their staff do a heck of a lot of the legwork that's involved in me doing my job. So I'm not out, for instance, gathering documents and reviewing documents and meeting with numerous people. The senior management here, including those that are in the audience here today, do a heck of a lot of that legwork, so that when it comes time for me to give advice or to tweak a contract or to create the document or to review the document, things are in place. And the result is, when that happens, there's less time, and hopefully over the long run that will result in the attorney's fees being kept under control. Thank you.
Thank you, General Counsel. Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District Firefighters Local 522's report. Welcome to the podium, Captain Johnson, and
Captain Bailey. I'm going to introduce you formally to him. Board of Directors, President Jones, and Chief Hinkey. It's my honor to introduce Sacramento Area Firefighters Local 522 new Vice President, Captain Ty Bailey. You are going to be in competent hands.
Thank you, Mo. First of all, it's a privilege and honor to be standing up in front of the Board of Directors tonight as the leader of Metro Fire Vice President. I'm very proud to be up here, and I look forward to the open communication and meeting with each of you over the next few months. And with that, I know we have some challenging times, and I'm looking forward to the open communication also with our administration and moving forward into the future with Metro Fire. So thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations, Captain Bailey. Yeah. Right, so moving on to committee and delegate reports. No report from Executive Committee. Item 2, Communications Center, JPA. Chief Arrett, welcome to the podium, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Dwayne Aaron, Deputy Chief of Support Services. The JPA Dispatch Board met recently. I think it was the no, it wasn't the 13th. I can't remember the date now, but February 28th, I believe, was the date. And at that meeting, the board adopted a new position within the dispatch center of program manager, so that this program manager will have oversight of some of the special projects that have been laying dormant for, quite frankly, a long time, not to mention some of the more current things that have come up. Adjustments to technology, CAD purchases, and quite frankly, one of the very first things that the program manager is going to be assigned is complete review and overhaul of the policies and procedures of the dispatch center, because they're in dire need of that. The board appointed Glenn Swarner from the operations side as the program manager for oversight for this. And that's about the extent of what took place at that board meeting. The next board meeting is March 27th. Questions?
Thank you, Chief Aaron. Next up, we have California Fire and Rescue Training, JPA, Director Kelly.
Well, if you were paying close attention, the chief gave my report. No, but and I appreciate your help. Anyhow, the Fire Rescue Training JPA, we discussed designs for the Kim Zagaris School of Negotiations. Anyhow, that was an inside joke that day. But anyhow, we talked about perimeter fencing on the property to secure assets that will be moved to the property in the future. I actually made a drive out there this afternoon and drove out there to see if the camera picked it up, and maybe Chief Wells got an email that I was out there. But there's a couple of containers out there, a couple of steel containers out there. It's great news that we're going to be receiving some portable classrooms from the Folsom Cordova School District. I know a couple of the board members out there, and I will express our thanks to them. And in addition to that, seeing what's going to take place out there and develop, I look forward to watching that property take shape. Our next meeting's on April 18th. It'll be again at the Cal EMA's Media Room on Schreiber Drive.
All right, thank you very much. We had our Finance Committee meeting tonight, and I'm pleased to announce that we discussed the idea of rotating our chair and vice chair positions as we do our executive committee here at the full board. And so starting at our next meeting, Gary Monk will be the chair of the Finance Committee, and Jack Scheidegger will be the vice chair. Congratulations and good luck. Policy Committee, is there an assistant chair that wants to comment on?
We haven't met since our last meeting, and we'll be meeting here on the 22nd, 5 o'clock.
Very much. And we'll move on to our board member questions and comments. Director Monk, we'll start on your side. Nicole?
I just wanted to say congratulations to Wendy Roof and Barbie Law for their participation on the Women's Committee. And congratulations to the board for continuing the guidance and our fiscal responsibility towards the budget and everything. It's not easy for us to micromanage, if you will, to keep us in the green. This board has done extremely well comparing surrounding agencies, et cetera, to keep us afloat. So congratulations to the board and to the fire chief for keeping us in the right direction. Thank you.
Director Monk. Director Pearson?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks again to the senior staff for taking the lead. I know that's difficult times for everybody out there right now, and that's going to be a hit on your pocketbook, and I understand that, and I appreciate that. It helps me go back to the constituents and explain to them what we're doing here. So I appreciate that. And then I also wanted to just throw it out there to everybody that I spent the last week back east with a bunch of firefighters, and we're doing a lot of good things here, and I think sometimes we miss it. Director Monk just mentioned our fiscal responsibility. We're actually doing pretty well. When you talk to the other departments across the country, they have issues. And then I know Larry Davis, your head's got to get swelled up every meeting we come here, but there's departments, and they're big departments. I mean, these are departments, I won't mention names, but you would think that they really have doing everything right, and they just don't have a clue of the grant system, and they're just not taking opportunities, and they're just missing out. And I talk to these people, and they're surprised at what we're able to do here with our grants and what we've been able to accomplish. And my hat's off to Larry Davis for that, because these big departments you look up to in the fire service, and you think they've got it. Well, I think Sacramento's leading the charge on a lot of that areas there, and so it's nice to go throughout the country and say you're affiliated with Sac Metro Fire in some way, shape, or form, and have it be a positive feedback, not, oh, yeah, I know them. You know, it's a nice feeling to be in a department like this. So just wanted to say that, and thank you very much. That's it.
Thank you. Director Scheidegger?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to refer back to the management concessions, the resolutions that were passed tonight, and again, thank the senior management staff for making those. And I really think it's important for this board and for management to consider. In fact, I was talking to Chief Holbrook about this, that we need as a project to somehow record all that we've been doing in the last year. I think it's something that's very important for the public to understand in the grand scheme of things. So I'd really like to see us undertake that.
Just to answer Director Scheidegger's comments, Director Orzali had also requested that, and he provided a format, and we are putting all of those changes into that format, which will go into a system that hopefully eventually on the web they can review, but each director can go back and look at the history on the major turning points that we've had. And so we're taking that project underway and hope to have something, some semblance by the time we have our board workshop.
Director Newcomer?
I too would like to thank Inspector Roof and Captain Law for their time spent today. And I'd also like to thank Mr. Davis for his work on these latest two grants, as well as everything else that he's been doing, and CFO McFarland and her staff for the work that was done for our presentation tonight. That's about all I've got.
Director Kelly?
Yes. I attended the crab feed for the Firefighters Burn Institute. Appreciate that. It was a very nice evening. Roger Ferentz is a neighbor of mine. If I, take a little bit off a sandwich, I could hit his house, and don't know what he's going to do with himself when he's got all this time on his hands now. The finance division, I don't know what can be said. I've seen the sophistication of the finance division increase exponentially in the past several months, and appreciate and trust the information that we're receiving. Senior staff, the concessions that are made are yet another fine example of the the diligence, the fine work by our staff, and the commitment by our senior staff to this district. And it's appreciated by this director very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would also like to acknowledge so many members of Metro Fire for their continuing support, community outreach, and just plain darn hard work. And that includes Captain Law and Inspector Roof for today's efforts, CFO McFarland and her entire staff for the gargantuan task of reining in our finances and gently nudging us in the right direction. Senior staff, safety and non-safety, for the achieving so many of the goals that we are moving forward for fiscal responsibility, accountability, and just plain fairness in the public service sector. So thank you to each and every one of those individuals. Let's see, I plan on attending the OPEB workshop and the revenue meeting. Thank you, Chief, for discussing the fireworks issue. As a founding member of the Sacramento County Fireworks Safety Task Force that was initiated, in the last century, in the previous century, I think it's very, very important that we sustain all of our charitable organizations and support responsible use of fireworks. So thank you very, very much for that information, Chief. I also attended the Cordova Community Council Community Volunteer Awards, and again, super congratulations to all the members of our CERT team. I sat with Chief White, Walt White, and we were very, very impressed and very, very proud to be part of the Metro family at that awards dinner. Thanks to everyone who supported the recent crab feed for the Burn Institute. Thank you, Chief and company. Thank you, Director Kelly, for helping to support that very, very worthwhile and noble institution for the Burn Institute, which helps burn survivors can carry on their lives. And finally, again, a continuing thank you to the City of Rancho Cordova for letting us use their wonderful facilities here. And with that, I will close the meeting.